Mate, what is with all these NRL fantasy podcasts? They all sound the fucking same. Welcome to the echo chamber.
Hello and welcome to the weekend edition of the NRL Fantasy Echo Chamber. We're here for a little bit of a review, what's happened and what's to come. I'm here with Ham. How are we going?
Pretty good, Scoop. Pretty good. Just looking forward to the Rabbitohs smash the Wires this Arvo.
I reckon it'll be a good game. I reckon
Yeah,
it'll
it
be
should be
a
a good.
really good game.
We got a few actually. I think every game today is a bit 50-50. Any team could really walk away with the chockies, but yeah, let's jump into some fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. After last week, I mean, who knows who to tip anybody, really.
Oh no, but buy around footy, how good is it?
Around footy, yeah. But first up, the Dragons did a number on the Knights. The Knights were not turning a corner after the belting of the reserve grade Panthers last week, and everybody just kind of fell over and died. And what do we have? Sharp 22. Had Lucas somehow get up to a 38, but he did go off 2 minutes from the end. I think he might have twinged that shoulder a bit. I'm not loving that. Stewart with 45 in 54 minutes. Matt Croker got a few minutes as well, 49 and 49. But the main guys are for the top, Luke Thompson, 54, if for those that have him, but unfortunately, looks like he's going to be out for 4 weeks now, suspended. IPS Paul with the 66, but outscored by the return of one Toby Couch, 69 points, man, in 80 minutes on the edge. So, how did you fare through this game? You probably had some of those lower ones. Did you manage to catch any of the good ones as well?
God, it's so annoying when this happens in a couchman. Like a lot of us are sellers. There's a few holders, but the couchman sell actually helped us a lot. Kind of last few weeks, kind of either cash down to if it was picking up Lucas for when you needed him, or just helping out get a gun for last week. It's so annoying when this happens when he just gets a free ride to some good minutes. We could have got 100, probably 50 to 100k little cash out to have him in time for around 15. But I just had the generic guys in this game, Sharp and Lucas. No Dragons guys for me. No King Tonga. I think he was on like 4 at halftime or something, which was kind of got me excited because I think there would be there might have been a few people playing him, but yeah, I just had I had Sharp and Lucas with down games. I think recall like when Sharp had a few games last year at fullback, he definitely had this kind of game in him where he's just not super involved, and it's rough because last week he was just doing everything. He just had the ball in his hands so often that yeah, sometimes these games have him, but for those that don't have him, they were punished last week and they're rewarded this week with what is it? 22.
Yeah, well, it's still a two game average of about 60, but it's now not so brutal one way or the other.
There'd probably be a few guys that, like, I guess I VC'd the guy, so I'm assuming everyone who has him is playing him, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely. After that 98 or whatever it was. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it just shows that problem isn't necessarily the fullback. They just need to give the ball, and the halves need a lot of work. So
It's
hopefully for Jay
like,
Z's Knights can do something. And
yeah.
did you see any of those whispers that Brown wanted to move to Newcastle by a certain round so that he could settle there with his partner or something like that?
I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? So often with all this shit around the Galvin situation, you forget that these are actually real people and they've got to uproot their lives often.
Yeah.
And then you think about someone like Kai Pearce-Paul as well, with rumors to the Tigers. Yeah, he's moving from England. It would be like, I don't know, maybe moving second nature to him by now, but it's gonna be very interesting. I think I'm very excited for November 1st. The trade time is just gonna go ballistic this year. I can't wait.
Especially now that we've got all of these teams confirmed to come in at certain times, I'm thinking there might be some short contracts for players preparing to actually go to one of those other teams.
Yeah. And there's so many exciting players that are just on the fringe, like thinking players like Suafa'alongo, Jai Gray, unfortunately, that could just be snapped up by PNG or by the Bears. Oh, we have Jay-Z. Oh, we
Is
have a
he in the chat?
little guest joining.
Yeah, but I think it'll be very interesting to see how it happens. But yeah, I'm not keen for the Knights for well, we've seen a little bit of everything now, and I don't
Yeah.
think any scenario helps them moving forwards to actually move up the ladder.
The, one of my main gripes with this team is they just don't use Brayley. I think he's a quality player. I don't know what's happened there. And I don't rate Crossland all that much either. And I'm just seeing now Brayley 32 minutes. Like, I guess because he's going to Canberra now, it's a lot set in stone. But it's just very interesting how they play out their roster. You've got, I guess, I don't know. They've got Dom Young coming back, and they're such a bait of a team as well. They look so good, especially last week, and then it just falls to pieces. But back fantasy wise, Damien Cook got the big 71. A few people were talking about him for 15 with the. Welcome, JT. Hello.
Yo.
Yeah.
As we welcome Jay-Z in. Welcome.
Welcome in,
Yeah.
welcome in.
We just talked about the Knights game. Cook, your boys.
Oh, mate. Might have to estrange myself from that team soon.
Yeah. You don't have any ties to Perth or anything that you can jump on the bandwagon?
I've lived in South Sydney for 5 years, and my dad's a Rabbit supporter. Surely.
Oh, there you go. And we'll take that.
Yeah, I need some backup in the chat. But yeah, back on Cook. Yeah, you were talking about him this week, Jay-Z, how he could possibly be our round 15 savior in the cemetery that is hookers in NRL fantasy. What do you think of his performance?
Yeah, he kind of carved. I was sort of looking out. It's a bit weird with Sewer going down early. I don't know if it's like the full plan, but they've won 2 games doing it, and he's looked pretty sharp, even just around the ruck. And he's not exactly a defensive burden or anything. So if it continues, I'll be looking at maybe bringing him in next week, just because he scores another big one. He's going to cost almost 700k, and if he's not a full season keeper, then maybe it's a bit too expensive to invest in. But if he maintains this role, if he plays 75 minutes a game, he will be a season keeper and great hooker backup for Clarkey.
Yeah, it seems like worlds away that I started with Cook. I kind of bit the bullet and I wanted a pod hooker. We had those unsureties about Watson to start the season, and I traded him out within 3 weeks. So it'd be interesting if I'm getting it back into my side.
Yeah, well, I was convinced early in the season that this was going to be his role. Like, I was very surprised when he didn't play 80 from the start. And it looks like they've finally gotten there, and now they're starting to win games. And with guys like Dylan Egan going down, and obviously they don't want Luciano playing 80 minutes every week. And if Sua's out for any amount of time, then he seems like a big raging hot buy.
That's a good point with Lucy not playing 80 minutes. That actually makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of that angle of it. Egan can easily do that, but you probably don't want Lucy getting up if tired, and he'll do some silly stuff.
Yeah. Lucy's at his best when he's just playing that cannonball style of footy where he's just flying off the bench. He's a massive unit, and he just can just focus on playing 45, 50 minutes of footy and not slogging his guts out for 80 minutes. But JDB, 34 minutes, which is a bit interesting as well. And he had that. How about that line break? That was probably the softest line break I've ever seen. He just like walked through and gave the ball to who scored that try? Was it Loco maybe? I can't remember. But he just walked through the line. But it's really interesting to see him playing small minutes because he's in years gone by, he was such a staple.
Yeah, well, he's 34 this year, and I don't know if they're going to re-sign him. And they've got a lot of sort of bit part middles, and if Couch spends time on the edge like he has been, then that's a lot of minutes freed up. Like, I don't think Hamish Stewart's going to be playing 60 minutes a game like he did last week. He played sort of 54 this week, but Clemmer had the bigger minutes. As long as guys like Pacifici Tonga are on the bench as well, like they're only expected to play sort of 20 to 30 minutes a game. So it just opens up a lot of minutes in the middle. I'm not sure Clemmer's going to play 57 minutes either, but he was, kind of on one, and they just kept him out there. So plenty of sort of space for Cook to get minutes.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at him for next week. And we briefly spoke of him before you came on, but Couchman's return, so annoying.
He's just the best, isn't he? He's so good.
Yeah. I think we've touched on most for this game. If we want to move on to the Saturday games, Scoopy.
Yep. All right. So the Titans game, another thorn in the sides for Sellers. For those who haven't hopped straight back on, Jaden Campbell at 64 at fullback against Storm in the rain. Like, that's another guy that you just have to get in at some point. But with the buys being a little bit awkward, get him in now, or do you get him in when it actually suits your team and your structure? That's the only thing stopping me just instantly buying Jaden Campbell next week without even thinking.
Before, I just wanted to mention something. Twice in 1 week, a missed field goal has ruined 13 plus for punters. So Ryan Pappenhausen missed a field goal in the 79th minute for the line to fall at 12, for the margin to fall at 12, same as Origin. So a thought and prayer to all the punters out there. But yeah, Jaden Campbell, there was so much junk, and there was just so many attacking stats. So I'm not in hysterics over it. And there was a good 15-20 minutes where he just scored like 4 points towards the back end of the first half. So he's a gun, and you can say that those attacking stats are part of his base or whatever you want to say, but just got to take it on the chin, I think.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards while obviously he had a good score and performed well. If he stays at fullback, I'm still not very keen on him, because if he had these stats and he was still at halfback and he had his 500 kick meters or whatever he usually gets, then this is a 80 plus game easily. But he's scored a try, 2 try assists, thrown a bunch of offloads, and still only manages 64, which maybe that's being a bit harsh on him, but I think until I see him in the 7 jumper, he's not as big of a priority. Yeah, he's still going to be a gun. I think a 50-plus scorer very easily. But for me, I think like a James Tedesco that plays both buys is more important, especially if Toya's going to get picked for the Maroons again, which I think he will.
I also think it's an interesting thing to see how many games we get him Campbell back at fullback, and if he retains that duel for next season. Because normally we say, like we saw with Hines, he had that wing fullback and he was just a set and forget for the entire year, a few years back, and then he lost the wing fullback. But do they have to play 3 games in the season? Is that normally what they do, or?
I think it's partially dependent on role as well.
I think it's typically what the club lists them down as at the start of the year. And then obviously, because Hines didn't play any games of fullback at Cronulla to my knowledge, whereas Campbell's still very much like he said yesterday, he's played fullback. So I would expect him to keep it. I don't even know if he's going to be a career half, to be honest. They looked pretty good with him back there as well. He's just the ability for him to pop up on both sides of the ruck and sort of touch the ball whenever he wants and not be focused on directing the team seems to be a lot better for him as a player. So whether or not Des looks at that and goes, "Oh, hang on, maybe we should keep him at the back," that could be a different story as well.
They also just signed
abandon
Kinney.
the halves and run 3 fullbacks.
Yeah. Well, they just signed Kinney to 2030. Isn't it crazy? They've got 3. I think it's 3 massive players on deals to 2030. Like the clauses in there would be so interesting. They've got Brimo, Tino, and Kinney now all on massive deals. And Fafita's on a massive deal as well.
Yeah, but I think he's only signed until next year, maybe. But yeah, it's I would be surprised if Brimson's still there in a year or two's time. I think he's the odd man out. Obviously, Campbell's a pretty good 7, and Keeney is an absolute weapon at 1. He's still out for 2 months though, which is why I'm a bit cautious about Campbell in fantasy. But it's clear that they're the 2 sort of chief guys that they want to hold on to, and it'll be interesting to see if they can, or if they even want to keep Brimo.
Yeah, definitely.
Bo Fermor returns to gun scores. Beat Lucas out by quite a bit this week with a 55. He just gets it done.
He's got crazy eyes, doesn't he? He just runs the ball like so hard, and I'm like every hit up, I'm like that guy is not going to get up, and then he's like a robot. I don't know. I think only Sam and out of the Echo boys, only Sam and Kyle are on him. I
Yeah,
think.
well, when he got picked for Origin, that would have been a bit of a blow. But I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
he's still good enough to probably hold, but it's rougher. Eli Katoa put together another good game with 0 attack. If there weren't so many edges, he would be someone I'd be
Yeah,
heavily looking at in probably round 16. I'm just not sure. Depends if you get Aitken or if you don't get Aitken, stuff like that.
yeah, definitely. And 0 attacking stats is pretty nuts.
Yeah, he's a beast. I'm pretty keen on him. Preston's just so expensive, and I know we have a lot of money this season, but you really want to bring a guy that's 770k in, like you wouldn't do it in 15, even though he's back then. And then Katoa's kind of got a free run home. Where I think do the Dogs have another buy, or is it their last buy in 16? Might actually be their last buy, to be honest. I don't know, but he's a good budget alternative to Preston in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. And
That might be their last buy, hey? I think that might be.
Yeah, it feels like because they missed around 6 or something as well.
Yeah,
6, 13, and 16. So after 16, they've got a straight run all the way home.
Yeah,
I think you can just wait to get Preston till after 16. Especially like I see so many people talking about edges, and then you see their team, and they've already got 2 edges. Whether that, and I get it if you've got White or Keon, where you can slot into the mid, but I wouldn't be blowing up your team to get another edge when you can just play one of those guys there.
Yeah, and a lot of people are like trying to overinvest there too. Like, oh, Aitken's a must-have, like, yeah, he might make sort of 70 to 100k, but if you've already got Hosking and Kalamatangi and you're planning on bringing back Preston or getting anyone else that also plays 18, it's like, well, what's the point?
Yeah, I think
It's gonna
people
suck not owning him, but I bought KPP about a month ago, and yeah, it's just not even a conversation for me.
Yeah, definitely. I've got players like I've got Jack Williams who's been doing really good for me like last 3 weeks, and I can slot him at mid or edge, so I'm not rushing to buy Aiken either. But as we see, the next guy on our list, Jamin Jolliffe, 61 minutes. I remember a lot of guys bought him last year. He was actually, I think he was up around 700k at one stage last year, and he was like a bit of a gun. But do we see a turn in his minutes, or was it just kind of how the rotations worked?
I think it was also partially because Fodawaker had a reduced minutes game, probably backing up. He only had 38. If the Titans played both the remaining major buys, I'd have a think about it, but it hasn't really entered my mind.
I've also just scrolled down to the bottom and I see Jacob Alec Wienke and Isaac Fasuma Malael. I always fucked that one up, but they had a combined 8 minutes on the field. So I can't remember if I was driving, so I didn't hear why they went off or what the story was there. But
I think they both came on like 5 minutes from the end.
oh yeah, I've just looked at it. Yeah, Jacob came on at 75 minutes and Isaac came on at 76 minutes. So that's pretty interesting that they just had Tino slog his guts out for 71 minutes after playing Origin, and then also played Jolliffe 60 minutes and Randall 75 minutes.
Yeah, whatever they're paying Tino is not enough. That guy is he's the heart and soul of that club, and without him, they would be without a doubt wooden spooners, and it's not like they're doing well.
And he's kind of young as well. Like I always think, because he just came kind of up when he was really young, and he's captaining the side at such a young age, I just think of him as like probably nearly 30, but he's only 25.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of guys that you feel are almost in his age bracket, but are actually like 2 or 3 years older. Tino won a premiership 5 years ago, which is crazy to think about.
That's crazy.
His whole time at Melbourne's a bit of a fever dream at this point, but he's been around for ages, and he's 25.
He's played over 100 games and he had a whole season out with an ACL, basically.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's a freak.
let's run through the other relevant guys. A bunch of guys bought Verrills. He pumped out a 48. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the buys don't work, but if he's played 80 the last 3 weeks, I think I had a brief look, but it's just not quite enough. He might be an okay backup hooker for the rest of the year if he works during the Origin period, but it's not really working.
Yeah,
I
I'm the
agree.
same. I was looking at either him or Randall, but I'd run into the same issue in 18 where I wouldn't have a hooker. If they played both, I'd probably be keen on one of them, but also with Cook sort of emerging as an option, I think I'll just head that way instead.
Randall's also just a bit of a Swiss Army knife at the moment. Hey, he's just playing it. He can get into dummy half. He playing on the edge, playing in the middle forwards as well. So
yeah, well, if
a bit all over
Fafita
the
comes
place.
back, which I'm not sure that he will, but if he does come back, then Randall goes back into the middle / hooker rotation,
Yeah.
which kills Ferrell's a bit.
Yeah.
Graham Hughes also 46, and the interesting thing was he took, looks like about 80% of the kicks from Munster. Not sure if that's just because Munster been given a little bit of a rest from Origin, but it was a little more promising. But still, he didn't get those attacking stats that he was so prevalent and known for last year. So I'm still watching and waiting on him.
Yeah, those injuries have cooked him. I wonder if he's like playing through something or nursing something because he isn't really running the ball much either.
Yeah, I think yesterday was a good sign with all the kick meters because Munster was doing a lot of it, especially the round right before the buys, round 11. Munster took like basically every kick off him, and so to see him get back and actually, kick for a ton of meters, it's really promising for him. And yeah, he's definitely around 16 option. I only have one half at the moment for 18, and that's Fogarty, and he's apparently out today. So see how bad his injury is, but definite consideration for me.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's Pappy with a 44. A bunch of coaches would have him. Nothing really to write home about, just classic Pappy. But
And then you scroll down to the lovely Cameron Munster's runs come to an end. He'll make 25k this week, and then he will turn into, well, not Tedesco, but somebody next week.
God, I'm so I was very sad that I got off him the last 2 weeks. Like as soon as I sold him, he just started scoring well. But it's games like this where you just see him walking. Well, after Origin, he was very he was doing all the kicking on Origin, so he had that big cut on his eyebrow, so he's probably feeling a little bit sorry, but he was just not getting involved, and it's such a punish watching Munster when he's just not locked in.
There's just a few moments that in years gone by where he sort of gets caught in a tackle, but they're not wrapping up the ball. He'd just throw an offload, like regardless of whether it's a good one or not. And he's just not doing that as much anymore. Like there were 3 or 4 tackles yesterday where he had a chance to offload it. And maybe it was due to the weather being torrential rain, but he just wasn't throwing offloads, wasn't breaking tackles. And when he's doing that, he's just not anywhere near as good as he can be.
Yeah, maybe Bellyache just told them, I don't want to see offloads. Like, how many offloads did the team get? Let's have a look. Like, Pappy had the most with 2. Katoa, yeah, and that's everyone else only has 1. So maybe Bellyache just said, I just want you to hold on to the ball, no silly offloads, or I will sledge the absolute fuck out of you when you get in the sheds.
It's almost a miracle he got to 30 because it was also very clearly just going Jerome's way the whole game.
Yeah. Well, because Jerome was obviously he was a fullback, and in my opinion, he doesn't suit the natural 7. So they've got that flexibility where they can just say, "Hey, Munster, I want you to kind of sit back this game, and Hughes will be the prominent half, and then the next game they could say, oh, Hughes' injury is ailing him a little bit, maybe. So Munster, you can take the kicking meters."
Yeah, and that's something that does worry me about Hughes is that when Munster's sort of had a bigger role with the boot, they've actually looked really good. He has a lot of try assists just off his kicking this season, and he got one yesterday as well. when he hopped into dummy half and put a kick through for Anderson. But, I think he had 3 against Penrith all off kicks. So it does sort of concern me as someone that's looking at Hughes that, maybe for the run home, Munster goes back to being the dominant guy. So it's something to keep in mind anyway.
I think his ceiling is capped anyway, so you're buying him for this cheaper price as well.
Yep. Let's
Shout
move
out
on to
before we
the.
finish to anti-fantasy legend Lofi with 4 errors, 2 missed tackles, and a penalty for 11 points.
Wow, Sam's gonna have a field day with that one. Shout out Sam.
How about this Cowboys game though, man? Like this.
Speaking of any fantasy legends, oh god, poor Gumby. He sold Toa this week. I'm actually amazed that he still has him, but I think he's been swamped with injuries over the last month. So it was fine holding him over other guys, but what a fucking performance from Stafford Toa.
Yeah, it was
He's
a
a
Toya
beast.
performance. It was a Toya performance. It was like, here's the big one that we knew he could do after petering out for a few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. He was just running over guys. Like he was literally running like a front rower on the edge there. It was crazy.
Yeah, the Labart just could not handle him.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if Labart's not in the team next week. But oh man, I'm really annoyed because I had a multi and I had Toa originally, and I was like, no, Labart's gonna chop him down. I'll go to Ruva, and instead, Toa scores a double. Just doesn't even think about passing the ball to him. He did this against the Cowboys a couple of years ago as well when they won by like 66 at Leichhardt or something, where he just gave Holmes a bath. So I guess he just loves playing the Cows.
I think we just need to like buy players in preparation for Cowboys versus Tigers each year because the last 3 games have been mental.
Yeah, I love buying into it. I love buying a player with narrative, like whether it's a player versus their old team, like Bateman would have been a good buy this week. He nearly got 60 against his old club, or like or a guy on his milestone game or something like that. Like that's always a bit of fun. We moved down the list. Dearden killed it after a very uninspiring performance not by him completely, but yeah, 74 points, plenty of involvement.
I reckon DC is sweating. I reckon, yeah. I don't know.
We'll get to the Manly game, but I thought DC was very good yesterday. I thought he was really good. So yeah,
I agree with that. But the latest chat was that they're expecting DCE to be in the Queensland squad.
Yeah, I think Brendan Reid was talking about it, but yeah, we'll see. But Dearden's not very relevant as we move on to everyone's captain, Taylor May. Nice little
at the end.
Oh, Terrell, sorry. Yeah, very great update overnight. I think he went from did I see he went from 67 down to 64 or something, and now he's gone back up to 70, or maybe I'm seeing
something like that. Yeah.
What a
He's
guy.
good. He's gone. One has him. He's going to be still going up in price briefly. I think he's capped out. I don't think he's going to move anymore, obviously, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and 0 negatives. Like, what a guy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a quieter game for him, no offloads, and he still managed 70 points. So
that's so unreal.
Hard to knock him.
Yeah, but I think it was, what was it, like 98% capped him in the top 1,000 or something like that. So
it was over 95, and I think the other ones were like up in a
Sharp.
Other random Cleary.
Like Cleary and Sharp.
Oh, mate, the Sharp captains are in bin.
Well, I VC'd Sharp, so I was like kind of, I wasn't sweating, but I was like, if Taylor May like goes down at captain's run or something, I'm fucking done for. But yeah, what a stud. Love the guy. Hope he doesn't play Origin, which he shouldn't. My guy, Jackson Purdue, who left my squad this week, has gone out and had an absolute field day. Hate watching. I feel like this is like the 3rd time this has happened to me this year where I've traded a guy and then he's just... Well, I didn't do it with Toya, at least. At least it was 65. He didn't... Like, Purdue, he didn't get that many points in the back end of the game, so...
Both him and Drinky, because the Tigers were just coming for them. They both finished on low mid-60s now, both on 50 in about 50 minutes.
And it's so annoying. All week I had a loop set up where I would watch Purdue's score and see if I would take Garrick over it. And then I was like, I actually think I need Hubner for round 15. Like I just wanted the backup in case I needed him. So I traded Purdue over Hubner. And then
Who
but
knows?
yeah,
Maybe Hubner comes out and scores a double today.
maybe.
I've got him in a loop. I've chucked him above Haas, and I've still got Horse in my starters. But if for some reason Hubner comes out and puts out 50 and 60 minutes, I'll have him ready.
Yeah. But I wasn't convinced. I'm not convinced Dearden is a 7. I still don't think he is. But with the two top scorers on the Cowboys being the halves, pretty looking promising.
They play a bit like Melbourne, to be honest, like where they run and gun more so than kick you to death. Like Penrith love kicking to the corners and putting the ball in the right spots, whereas Melbourne and the Cowboys kind of just throw a bunch of attack at you, and the halves are challenging the line constantly. And sometimes it works, like in games like this where Dearden 2 try assists, Purdue 2 try assists, a try for each of them, and then some games it doesn't, like the Manly game where they just couldn't figure anything out against them. And I think you're right, and I think it's strange to put Dearden in the 7 for Queensland because he's not an out-and-out 7. But
Yeah,
I mean, he's playing good enough footy. I think they're just going to back the talent and hope that gets him home.
yeah, I agree. Moving on, Scotty Drink. Do all you boys have him? I've got him in my side.
Good stuff. But yeah, I was making a list yesterday because I thought there was all these funny players coming out that a few people had them, but they weren't that high ownership. I'll just run through it now. All these guys were in the 60s. Couchman 69, 33% top 1K. Pierce Paul 66, 25% top 1K. Campbell 65, 30% top 1K. Purdue 65, 31% top 1K. And Drinky 62, 30% top 1K. So if you didn't have them, it wasn't the end of the world. But if you didn't have any of them, well, you're smarting a bit.
Rubbing in my Purdue cell a bit there, Scoop. Thanks for that. Mhm.
Yeah, interesting that Drinky had the most kick meters out of any player in the Cowboys side.
I didn't even notice that. That's crazy.
It probably goes to the whole they don't have a real 7 thing, but yeah, he looked on track for 100 points this game, and then just did next to nothing in the second half, which is a bit sad.
I think you've just got to cop it at this point. Like, I'm just happy if a player gets to around 60. I'm like, they could go to sleep. They could go to the bench and I'm not see them for the rest of the game, and I'll be okay. I would be okay, especially in the wing fullback.
Yeah, and Drinky is a bit like that, where he'll have games where he just has a half where he scores 60 points and then 5 points in the next half. I mean, he only scored 18 last week, or whenever they played last, and I think he was on 18 after about 10 minutes in this one.
Yeah, his PPM from the get go was just he was just so busy early. 200 run meters as well, which is awesome. Love seeing that tick over just so you get the extra point. Like if he's in between 190 and 200, but they decided to give him exactly 200.
I feel like it's always 199 or something. Like I swear Terrell May had like 199 when they played Souths. And I was like, just got one more, you bastard.
Yeah, just take a step, bro.
You weren't counting his shoe size and the stride lengths.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, not very few people have him still, but he's somehow trucking along now for some reason. Kind of fun.
7 missed tackles as well.
7 missed tackles. Jack Bird played a fair bit. Why did Bird play so many? Who went down? Oh, Twile, that's right.
Yeah, Twile had that head knock early on.
And Twile's had a bunch of head knocks through his career. I wonder.
Really?
Yeah, it's like he's 6th in the past 2 or 3 seasons or something.
And they always feel horrific as well. Like he always comes reeling out of the tackle and just like asleep on the floor. And it's like, God, how many of these does he have left in him?
But what I'm sort of getting at is maybe Bird becomes an option as like a cash out that we can play in the centres in round 18.
Yeah, true.
Nice.
That would be really nice. Suka played 41 minutes and got a 30. I didn't really keep a close eye on how he looked, but he got some decent minutes off the bench.
When Twile came off, Seyfarth moved to the middle and Suka went out to the edge.
And Royce Hunt came in with his 15 minutes of the game. That is the crazy. Like I'm assuming he got paid fairly well to leave the Sharks to go and he was one of the Tigers' first kind of signings for this season, and he's just like average. I think he's played 30 minutes max all year. Like imagine just running on the field for 15 minutes and getting your paycheck and going home.
But wasn't he going to retire or something if he wasn't offered a contract? And so this might just be the year that he finishes out or something.
I didn't hear that. But
Yeah, he was on Dan and Kemp's podcast, and he basically said, "I had no offers, didn't know what I was going to do, probably just going to retire." And then Tigers came in with a decent money contract when no one else was like even in the market for him, and he was
Yeah,
like,
right.
"Yeah, I'm not going to turn this down. I'd be an idiot to do that."
Yeah, right. Heath Mason, I thought he looked really good at 6. He'd missed a bunch of tackles, but I think he's very of that Jai Gray kind of style, like a smaller guy. Got the headgear on too. What'd you guys think of him?
I love the headgear watches.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, he was good. He was quite nippy and just always around the ball. The problem with him is that, I mean, he's not going to hold the spot when Latu Fainu is
Yeah.
fit.
He's definitely.
He might hold a bench spot.
Yeah, we're actually lucky he didn't go ballistic because we want Latu to. Well, we just want someone. We just want someone to be cheap and to have that role, but it's got to be Latu.
Yeah, you'd think so. He did look good though. To his credit, he gave it a real crack.
Buller pulled out 61 as well. God, he looks so good, and sometimes he's one of those players where you're watching him and you're like, this guy is going to have 1,000 fantasy points. And then he did have the 60 in this game, but there's so many games this year where I feel like it just hasn't translated into fantasy as well.
Yeah, well, it's weird that you mentioned that because his last 5 average is 50, which honestly, he's one of those guys where I just don't ever acknowledge he even exists as a fantasy option, apart from that first year where he came in. But he is playing really, really good footy in real life. So I wouldn't pick him up in fantasy, but I mean, he's having a great year.
Yeah, just looking at his scores. Yeah, he's actually had, like, since round 7, he's been pretty consistently around that 50 mark. Yeah, not really an option, I don't think, but yeah. Your mate Jackson Paulo.
I mean, I said it jokingly, and he kind of does this thing, and he did it at South, he did it at the Roosters, where he comes in and he has a couple of really good games where he scores tries and looks like a world beater, and then just disappears. But he ran for 285 meters in this game. I didn't even realize he did that. That's mental.
It's normally the fact that he's a massive liability on defense, and that's the reason to why he just peters out of the football side. But yeah,
how many clubs has he played for too?
4.
So many.
If you because he was at Manly for a short while as well.
Yeah, 22 Rabbits, 23 Roosters, 24 Seagulls, 25 Cows. So he's going to move on next year to a club that needs a backup wing fullback.
Yeah, well, I would have said like 7 clubs. Really, it's a bit like Paul Momirovski, who just sort of jumped around. Except wherever Paul went, they seemed to win the comp.
Yeah, he went over and killed it in Super League as well. I think he retired this year too.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah, moving down the list, there's not heaps of other relevant guys. Appy 40, a bunch of missed tackles again, but
yeah, I think he's another one where
I don't
if he
think
was
there's anyone else
available
to really touch on.
in both 15 and 18, Appy would maybe be an option, but just one of the buys probably isn't good enough.
Yeah, definitely. Do we want to get on to the Manly Broncos game?
Yep.
My first failed tip for the week. I was perfect up until this game. What is the story with Brisbane?
Brisbane bad. The end. It's a bit weird, hey. If they just can't put a performance together. The main one that we were watching from this game obviously were Tavanga and Haas. And Tavanga did end up on ball, although slowed a lot down when Manly were attacking a lot. But I think Haas was just on conserve energy mode because I've watched him play before and he just goes for everything and gets all these extra tackles and extra stats and everything. He looked dangerous when he had the ball, but he wasn't doing as much as he usually would.
Yeah. He didn't look injured, so to speak. He just looked like he was kind of hanging around at the back of play, not taking every single run. So I wouldn't be alarm bells aren't going off for me. And he missed 2 tackles and he had 2 errors as well, and that's not very Haas-like, but
Yeah, it was a bit of an uncharacteristic game from him. He had some early errors as well, which really cost him and put Manly in the driver's seat. But I had a feeling this would be a down game for Haas. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised he even took the field,
yeah,
given
definitely.
the injury leading into Origin and then playing 60 minutes and winning man of the match in Origin. So I looped him. I won't be playing him. I'll be taking Hosking over him this week. But yeah, like you said, no, not exactly danger signs for him. Although I was a bit high on selling him on the Tuesday pod because I just didn't really see him playing big minutes if he backed up. But he did. He played 60 minutes, so just an uncharacteristic game.
Well,
Yeah.
if he play, what did he score? 43. So if he loses 30K this week, his break even will be really high next. He might lose another, I don't know, 10, 20. And then if he does this again and kind of does another autopilot game, he could be like sort of high 800s as we come out of Origin. And that would be a bit nicer to pick back up than 969.
It's so crazy that like this guy's scoring pretty much a 45 in about 60 minutes, and we're like, it's uncharacteristic. There's something going on. It's like he's got such a high standard that I think coaches can just take a chill pill, see what happens next week. From what I saw, I don't think the injury is hampering him. I think it was purely maybe Madge said, look, I want you out there to rev the boys up, but I don't want you taking every carry. So just like hang out the back of play, hang out the back of shape, run a decoy every now and then. So also a fun little stat about this game. Only 4 players on the Broncos have ever played at Brookvale.
Really?
It was Carrigan, Reynolds, Staggs, and Corey Jensen. Crazy.
I will say though, Lehigh Hopewadi should probably be Manly's full-time fullback. He's an absolute machine.
He's a stud.
He's
so good.
He doesn't really look like he should be as well. He looks kind of like he's got a bit of a weird build and like
yeah, he's still got like the lanky sort of teenager fresh out of high school build.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you went down to your grade 10 and saw him like with a hat trick and fucking just carving up, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's just that freaky kid who's just done that since he was 5 years old. But yeah, I think it's such a heartbreaking story about Turbo. He like, I don't know. What do you do?
Yeah, he's just. I mean, I know he had that sort of Dally M year, but he really hasn't hit the heights that I think was promised. I think if he had sort of a free run with injuries, we'd be talking about him as one of the best of all time, as opposed to just one of the best of his era.
Definitely.
Yeah, really unfortunate. I don't know what the answer is there though. Like you can't really put him in the centers. I don't know if you'd put him at 5'8" unless you. I mean, what do you do with Luke Brooks? Bit weird.
I hate the idea of him in the halves. I think he has to either play center, either take a year off, heal himself, and then come back in 2027 or whatever. I think he'll be fairly old by then, maybe almost 30. But yeah, I think he needs to sit in center. They need to push maybe Cooler or Garrick out to the wing, slide him into center and play Lehigh, because I think Lehigh's wasted on the wing. He's a pretty tough carrier of the ball, but his ball playing is like pretty great. So
yeah, and I don't think Garrick is too crash hot as a center either. I think the answer is put him on the wing, Turbo center, and then they could probably get rid of Jason Saab and Tommy Talau and those sort of guys.
Yeah, definitely. Not too many fantasy relevant guys at the top of our list here. Probably maybe Carrigan's the only guy, but most probably would have sold him before Origin.
Sat around, and that's
Yeah, so Carrigan's actually scoring like amazingly well. If you look at his last sort of 5-6 weeks, he's got one score below 60. and he's almost sneaking up as like a run home keeper option. Obviously,
Alright.
it just this year is all about mids. Quite frankly, like Tino's going to be one we need to look closely at. Carrigan, Yo. I mean, Carrigan's scoring better than Yo at the moment, which is kind of crazy to think about. And doing it in pure base.
Yeah, he's really had a jump in minutes as well. Like at the start of the year, he was sitting around that mid 50s into the 60s, but he's been playing 70 plus apart from this week, pretty much every week since round 7.
But
I
I
didn't
think my
realise
problem.
how well he was going. Hey, there's only been one score below 50 since round 7. Oh,
Yeah.
below 60, yeah.
I guess my issue with him would be it's not working, whatever they're doing with the forward rotation at the moment. And so maybe he goes back to lock and doesn't spend as much time, making tackles and taking runs and sort of takes a back seat and directing other people. But I don't know. Brisbane are a fucking mess at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think the Hetherington Willison kind of rotation is really working. Like, I don't think Willison is an edge back rower, to be honest. But yeah, they need to do something there because
Desperate for Jack Kajewski to come back.
the jet ski. Yeah. God, that seems like a lifetime ago that he was playing.
Yeah, they must really not trust Piakura though. I thought he played pretty well against South a few weeks back, even though they lost the game. But they're just not playing him.
Did people actually buy him when everyone was talking about him? Because he's gone 12 and then 21 since those 2 80-minute scores.
Seen a couple, but not that many.
Yeah.
Yeah, no good teams, I don't think. But I've seen a
All
few.
the people who are using all their trades got Piakura, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Not much else to report other than Garrick is just plodding his way around the 40s. 10 points in goals as well. He was pretty annoying to watch this game, especially for you. Yeah, especially for you, JZ, bringing him in last week.
Yeah, I'm not going to take his score this week. I'm going to play Toya over him because I think the Roosters are really good on the edges and Canberra are quite vulnerable out there. If you saw what Stephen Crichton did to them a couple of weeks back. Interesting, Daly Cherry Evans kicked for 1 billion kick meters this week.
800 plus.
2 try assists as well. I think they changed that. They had him credited for 3, I thought, but only 13 tackles as well. So very interesting. He must have just been hanging out the back as well. But I thought he played really good. I thought he played really solid, and it was back to what he does best is just kick the ball a ton, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens at with Queensland. I think he's signed, sealed, and delivered going to the Chooks. And like he was absent in the Origin game, but the forwards were terrible. And when your forwards are terrible, the amount of pressure that goes on the halves, they have no time. Like the New South Wales line speed was also crazy. I feel like it's pretty tough one game to lump it all on DCE and then say that he is going to lose his Origin career is over when he has single-handedly won series in the past. He's been great in Origin, and it's so rough to see. But he's also old, so you could definitely have the argument to get him out of there. But
I don't know how anyone watches Origin 1 and thinks that like anyone in the spine was really an issue. I mean, they gave away so many penalties early, and Payne Haas just like ran a train over the forwards. Like, what do you expect him to do? Cherry Evans was the most dangerous out of all the spine players in game 1 as well. Ponga had quite a few runs, but I don't know. They're just trying to get Dearden in because they know Dearden's a really good player and he's performed at that level before. But is him and Munster really going to be better than Cherry Evans and Munster? I doubt it.
And DC would be bringing so much off the field and so many non-statistics, like just that experience and just being the guy for so long that I feel like if you put him out of the side, who is there? You've already got a fairly young Queensland squad in somewhat of a rebuild. Like, what are they going to do? Are they just going to treat the rest of the series like, I don't know, looking to the future, or?
They're going to need a miracle to beat the Blues in Game 2. I think after watching Game 1, I think the Blues didn't play particularly well, and they still very, very comfortably won that game. And if Moses and Cleary come out firing, then it could be what the other sort of Perth games have looked like, where the Blues have just won by 40 points.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking on Garrick, so I've got a loop set up as well, but it kind of leads me into my Fogarty debacle. So to start off with, I've got a loop. I can either take Garrick's 41, or I can take Tamale or Toya in. I can swap them out for Farnworth. But to also add on to that debacle, I'm starting Fogarty and Savala, and if Fogarty's out, then I'm going to need to trade in a half. So what I've done at the moment is Toya to Humphreys, but I can also do Tamale to Humphreys, or even Riley Smith to Humphreys as well. So what would be your opinion on that there? Do I take Toya and sell Tamale? Do I sell Toya and take Tamale? And is Humphreys really the only option I've got to bring in?
Probably, in terms of the only like Metcalf is a left fielder, I guess, but Humphreys has amazing by coverage for the next two. And there's a real chance that Latrell doesn't goal kick or do as much kicking today because he has sort of a knee complaint, which isn't keeping him from playing. So maybe that assists with Humphreys' base stats a bit. I don't hate it. I think the problem would be the run home. Maybe he's not as strong a scorer, but you need a half for today. So, I mean, you're already netting however many points he scores today, plus round 15 and 18, assuming you don't have halves for those rounds as well.
Weird, awkward pick, but the thing is, considering we'd expect Latrell to play Origin, he probably just goes back to Super Humphreys for those two matches and scores you really well. So
Yeah,
that could be very
that was
valuable in itself.
That was my thought process too. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, his kick meters are down with Latrell, his scoring's down with Latrell," but you're really buying him for his scores without Latrell, and also Trell's fitness or injury has been pretty volatile this year. It feels like whenever I'm watching him, he kind of pulls up funny or he's iced up at the end of a game. So I think he is going to be my safest pick. Do you think I should be trading out Tamale or Toya? I'm leaning Toya just because Tamale helps me out in the buy rounds, or at least in 18. Oh, do they play 18?
Yeah, they play 18. Yeah, that's where I'd go as well. Obviously, you'd probably like to hold Toya at least one more week, given his break even's only 16. But Tamale is so useful, not just in round 18, but as a sort of 18th man, 19th man. Like, he's got wing and centre coverage, and he's good for a pretty good score on any given week. And given Canberra's really soft draw for the rest of the season, he could have a couple of really big games if he ever manages to score more than one try in a game. I think that's when we start looking at the possibility of him scoring 70s or maybe even higher. Like, he has a couple of really big games in New South Wales Cup where he scored a few tries, and if that happens in first grade, then sky's the limit for him, I think.
What about What about trading the Riley Smith over either of those center guys?
Feels like you're
Feels
split because,
feels
like,
gross.
if
It
John
feels so
Papali
gross.
is going to sit there because he's pretty good and take a few minutes off him, he's done as an option. But if that doesn't end up happening and he like drops off after a few weeks or doesn't end up, Riley Smith's scoring lots of 50s, and I mean, you kind of want to keep him around with how bad Hooker is this year. Yeah, with
Definitely.
Aaron Clark and Riley Smith playing no more major buys, need somebody else. So
Yeah, I don't hate the idea. I was tossing up the idea of cashing out Iongi, who's in a similar position to Riley Smith, where they've got a low break even, and you could probably hold them for another week or two, but they're not crucial. Like, you're probably not going to be playing either of them in your 17. I mean, maybe you play Riley in your 17, but I think his scores, while they're not flukes because he's obviously posting massive tackle counts every week, they're just, I don't know, a bit unsustainable. Like his missed tackles have really sort of disappeared. I don't think he's going to play 80 minutes every week. Like Joash Papali'i Papali was meant to be playing some hooker last week, but Penasini went down like 4 minutes into the game. So ideally you'd wait a week on that, but the idea of trading him early isn't the worst.
And just looking at round 10 and 11, he didn't score a point from run meters in either of those games. He with 8 run meters and 9 run meters in the other game. So it's so disgusting. He's just servicing the ball and tackling his dick off. But yeah, I don't know. I'm got a pretty tricky decision to make this afternoon, but we'll see. This is probably a good. Oh, sorry, you go.
Just know that if you trade him out, he's scoring a double and probably 85 points this week.
And I've already traded out Purdue this week, so if I trade out another guy and he just goes ballistic, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I mean, you probably can't get his score this week anyway, even if he goes big, right? Because you'd have Clark in hooker.
Yeah, I've got Clark in hooker.
So, oh well. Maybe you miss out on a price rise. Maybe he scores 20 points and misses 8 tackles. Who knows?
Yeah. So I'm still. I think I'm just going to trade Riley because Toya also has a pretty low break even.
Don't mind that.
Yeah. Plus, it sounds crazy, but there is a chance the Maroons still drop Toya. He did have a good game, but Cobbo and Murray Taulagi will presumably be available for game 2, and I don't think they're dropping Holmes. They're definitely not dropping Coates. I doubt they're dropping Hammer, so that kind of just leaves Toya to go. And while it would be cruel to him, given he
played all right,
he had a good game, it's still a real possibility.
But my other issue regarding that is it doesn't actually affect me if he plays that round because I've got unless I play Toya over Garrick, but I guess I have a loop there.
You'd be able to loop with Tamale then, right?
Yeah.
And the fucking Roosters are playing Newcastle on round 15 from memory. So Toya's probably scoring 16 tries that game if he plays.
Yeah, who's he running
Let's
at?
go for like
McCarthy?
170.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I'll lock in Riley Smith through Jamie Humphries. Yeah, this is probably also, I don't know if there are any other people in the same boat as me who have Fogarty and they don't have backup, but yeah, you're probably on the options would be Humphries or.
So you don't have Cleary?
No, I had to. So last week there was the debacle with the Lucas news, and I had Garrick locked into center, and I couldn't put Garrick into wing fullback, so I couldn't loop in someone else. I don't know. I can't remember what happened, but basically, it might have been. I had, pretty much me. To get another wing fullback score, I had to trade Cleary to Tedesco, which got me a 50. But I'm going to be death riding the fuck out of Nathan. So lots of death riding from me this week. I death ride Purdue. I'm going to death ride Riley Smith and Cleary as well. So
yeah, well, let's hope Savala goes big, hey?
Yeah. Before we fully jump into the rest of these games, just a quick shout out to Ezra Mam, the second most purchased player this week, scoring 21 with a try. Yeah.
What's the stats of the purchases in the relevant kind of rankings there?
Oh, very low. I didn't even see him on no fantasy stats site. But the first up game today is Rabbits v Warriors. I reckon the Rabbits will give this a good shake. The Warriors are at the top of the table for a reason. How do you see this battle playing out?
Yeah, I'm of the opinion. I think the Wars have had a super soft draw. I understand they have the issues with obviously traveling across the ditch, and have they had a bye? Let me have a look. Yeah, they had a bye in round 5. But I just feel like they've been versing pretty ploddy teams, but on the other hand, they've just been finding ways to win. I think probably 75% of their wins have had a single digit margin. So they're just finding ways to win, even if their draw is soft and they're versing pretty average teams. The fact is that they're winning. But yeah, I always like this matchup for South versus Waz. I'm the same. I think South could win. It just depends if
I think from memory, South won until last year. South won like 11 straight against the Warriors or something. They had a really, really good record against them for ages.
Yeah.
But I think this will be a close one, and it will just come down to who's more clutch out of Metcalf versus Latrell and Humphreys, I think.
Maybe
I also
Humphreys to
think
steal the 49-meter field goal from Latrell.
yes. I also think there's some I think there's some value on South Sydney. They're paying around $2.20 on most punting apps. So
Yeah, well, they're
Yeah.
getting closer to full strength, and they've got allegedly Taylor May coming in, which would really help fix up their backline if he sits on the right wing.
Yeah.
Souths are a bit of a dark horse this season. I don't know if they'll win the comp or anything, but I expect them to play finals, and I expect them to trouble teams if they're full strength.
I actually really like that the Taylor May buy we've got, like especially with all the injuries we've had in the back line. He would be such a good guy just to kind of slot in. Like Bailey Bentley Hape, we're playing on the wing at the moment, who's he's a rookie. I'm not really sold by him. So yeah, Taylor would be pretty awesome buy. We've got Cheese coming in at around round 16. And we've had Cody Walker and Jack Whiten out for a fair few weeks now. So but I've also been really, really impressed by Bud Sullivan. I think he's been playing awesome. I think he's really stepped up, and yeah, I think Tigers it'll be interesting to see if they, because he's on loan at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see if he goes back to Tigers for next year.
Yeah, they might actually, now that Gavin's gone, actually want him back. Who knows? He says he loves South Sydney and he wouldn't want to leave, so
Yeah,
it'd be interesting.
if Tigers, that would be such a Tigers thing, just to like see this, like have a guy not flourish at your club, ship him off somewhere, be paying like an exorbitant amount of money to have him play at another club, and then be like, yeah, you're coming. We know you're enjoying footy and you're playing the best you've ever played, but you're coming back here now. You're coming back to Tigers.
Because he was on like 800k a season at the Tigers or something, right? It was something absurd.
Yes, something disgusting. And I don't think Souths are really paying anything off the top of my head. They might be paying like 100k, but
Yeah.
they're paying like nothing. Pretty awesome. So once we get Whiten, like I'm not thrilled to have Cody Walker back in the side. I think he's pretty old and he's ball playing. He's freaky when he's good, when he's fit and good. But yeah, Bud Sullivan's playing fine at the moment. So
Yeah, I think it'll work because you'll have sort of Humphreys and Mitchell doing all the kicking, and Cody can basically do whatever he wants, and he's still a creative enough player that he can produce points. But how the bench utility works, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think Cody really struggled last year when he was in the 7 jersey and he was just kicking all the time and he didn't really have any time just to run the footy. So I think Humphreys was really good, just letting him roam around and focus on playing the ball. Yeah. But yeah, I like South in this one.
Me too. I think it'll be good for guys like Aaron Clark and Kyle Matangi, who is by far the most traded in player this week. It'll just be straight up the guts. Like even Aitken, it should be a relatively high base stat game. Two teams that don't make a ton of errors. The last time South played against the Tigers, the ball was in play for a ridiculous amount of time. Everyone's base stats were massive, and I expect it to be pretty similar in this one.
How many minutes do you reckon Hubner's going to go for with that bench? Do you reckon it's
I
going to
think
be lowish like last time, or are we just praying on more minutes?
Yeah, well, the thing that's so frustrating, I was talking to you about it before we hit record, Scoop, was the bench looks so good for Hubner, but then you remember that Keon is playing 30, 35, 40 minutes at lock. So it's actually not that appealing. I think more like these middle forwards, they're just playing anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes, and it seems like Wayne is just kind of switching it out to whoever he wants, really, whether it's Kepi, Mawali, or whoever. But I think Hubner should play 40 to 50 minutes. So if you're forced to play him for some reason, then I wouldn't be.
Yeah, that's
Really
where I'd have him. I think he's a 40 to 50-minute guy, and then key on anywhere between 60 and 80 in the middle, I'd guess. Wayne said in his last presser, like, hopefully I don't have to play him for 80 minutes every week, so I don't think that is going to be his long-term role, but he'll certainly play big minutes given how good he's gone in the middle. And then Arrow, I don't know, like Wayne kind of just, I don't know if he just random number generators his forwards minutes, but sometimes Arrow plays like 60 and sometimes he plays like 35. Kind of just feels on. I think Wayne Bennett just goes on how the game is going, and who knows, maybe Arrow shifts to the edge at some point and Duncan comes off, and then that frees up a few minutes. It's a lot of guesswork. I wouldn't be touching anyone outside of Fa'amatangi Aitken.
I think regular, like just football wise, it's pretty good just being able to play off how tired your blokes are or who's keen to keep going. And we saw Hubner probably a month ago. He got called off and he was fucking spewing. He was like, I'm not ready to come off. He wanted to keep going. So yeah, we'll see. Moving on to the next game, Penrith and Para, the Battle of Combank. What are our thoughts around this game?
Well, spoon well. Para been a little bit better in previous weeks, but I am keen to see how this one does go down because the Panthers are not contending this year, but you still get the idea that when they actually have their team together, they're a lot better than they have been playing. So I'm really struggling to know how this one is actually going to play out. All that I know is that Zach Lomax is probably going to score 2 more tries because him on the wing is a king of.
I really like taking Eels to win in this game. I think they're paying about $2.50 across most punting sites. So if you're looking for a bit of jam there.
I'm a lot higher on Penrith in this one. I'd be very surprised if they lost. Para have played well, 100%, and Moses and Lomax back. Obviously, they're a much better side with those two, but I think a lot of the Penrith guys will take a lot of joy out of that Origin win, and they'll come back, all guns blazing. And I expect Nathan to go huge in this one. Sorry, Ham. I'm really expecting a Cleary masterclass.
I'm hoping it's a repeat of a couple of years back where he did that. Was it a crusher or a head high or something and got sent off in 7 minutes or whatever it was?
Yeah, and he got suspended for 5 games.
I'm not hoping for that, but if it happens, then I won't be complaining.
Yeah, not a lot of fantasy relevant guys in this one though. Apart from the ones we already own, like you wouldn't be trading in anyone from either of these teams this week.
Yeah, I agree. My boy Jackie Williams, nice little pod. I don't know what his ownership in the top 5,000 is, but he's been plodding along nicely for me the last 3 weeks, getting 80 minutes somehow, which is the role that I thought he would get from the start. So, hopefully he can
just about 1% owned across the top teams.
Yeah, right.
Be interesting to see if he starts on the edge again because he's actually had a lot of joy there the last 2 weeks.
Well, I think he's been playing the first stint in the middle and then moving out to the edge, or just playing. I think he's just playing a hybrid role. So I don't really know. Oh, and sorry, he only played 73 minutes last week. He did not play 80, but he's been getting solid, decent minutes with a decent PPM the last 2 weeks. So
yeah, he's been playing well too.
Yeah, I always liked him at the Sharks, and I feel like he was just like behind a bunch of guys. So we'll see how he goes up against the Penrith pack this week. Mm-hmm. What about you, Katonga owners? I never got on him. I think he's been going good last few weeks.
Had some weird loop set up where because of his duel, I was looping KPP with Tamale, and if we did have Fanua Blake news that it was bad, I would have traded him out instead of Kiraz and then proper looped him and Tamale. But I'm pretty happy to just play. Been very good.
Yeah, he's got 3 back-to-back mid to high 50s, so owners would be cheering.
he actually looks like he's becoming a bit better as a player too, like not throwing as many crazy offloads, and he's had a line break, and I think he set up a try against the Dolphins or something. So he's coming along quite well. In saying that, I hope he scores about fucking 20 points today, like him and his owners.
Well,
Yeah, 100%.
I'm hard pressed to know what to do with him too, because in my plans about 2 weeks ago, he was going to become Garrick because of buy coverage and the low price. But I kind of want to hold on to him now, and edges who have the centre duel are just always so valuable. But we're going to have to make hard decisions this year with guys who we do want to keep or don't want to keep. I'm very confident now that Riley Smith's going to go out of my team instead of Katonga.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good problem to have, to be fair.
Yeah.
Not having Garrick and having Katonga in the last few weeks. But
Mhm.
not many other fantasy relevant guys other than Iyongi and Riley Smith.
Yeah, it's probably the last week for both of them in my team, I would imagine. Unless Riley posts another 50, then no reason to trade him, I guess.
It'll be a good little matchup. Will be Iyongi against his old club and Blaze Talangi against his old club. That's a nice little narrative.
Yeah,
We'll see.
three cracker games today.
Yeah, great. What a Sunday. I hope everyone's just got nothing on. I think Scoop's got something on, but put your feet up and chuck the footy on. And
I'll be watching the last ones for sure. But yeah, that
yeah,
last game, everybody's got a fair chunk of players in that, and they're all super varied. So
yeah.
Roosters, whether you've bought Tedesco or looking at him, Goya versus not, looping with White, Nonganitawaze, and even I think Ridley bought Victor Radley as well.
I think this could be game of the
Yeah.
year.
What's
Well, not
this?
game. I think this could be.
Roosters Raiders.
Yeah, this could not game of the year, game of the season so far. I feel like both clubs are just playing fairly similar styles of football. And neither of them are really, there's no restings happening, is there? And the funny thing is, Roosters has a really young pack. We see Zach Docker-Clay make way for Ioelu, who I thought was pretty electric last week. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good game.
I think this has the makings of a 30-28 showdown like we saw with the Tigers and Cowboys yesterday. A lot of good attacking footy, and I guess defense is optional half the time for these two teams. It'll be really interesting to see guys like Wong and Toya up against the Raiders' edge, where they've sort of struggled to contain the likes of Kikau and Crichton and other Herbie and all those type of players that have sort of embarrassed them. But I have a lot of players in this game, so hopefully there's a lot of fantasy points, and Tapane, Hosking, Tamale all get on the score sheet would be nice.
They're also both
I'm
paying.
playing 4, and I've got 2 on my bench.
They're both paying $1.90, so it's pretty neck and neck.
I think if Fogarty's out, I'd almost say the Roosters are favourites in this game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, depending on if I loop Wong in. That's another loop I've got. I get to see if Williams scores decently, then I take his. If not, chuck Wong in.
Yeah, it should be a good game for him. Sebastian Kris hasn't been the best in defence this season.
He's also just been he's not been getting much attacking ball. Wong. He's been kind of just plodding along with some tackles. He did get a little try assist against the Sharks last week, but I feel like he not seeing much ball inside the 20 meter.
Ever since they swapped Townsend with Savala, Savala hasn't been giving great ball to his outside men, I guess, apart from Marky Mark, because he's the center of attention, I guess. He scores a ton of tries. And it's kind of skipping Wong a bit, whereas earlier in the season, I think Townsend relied a bit more on Wong running off his shoulder and offloading and things like that.
Yeah, I've just had a look. With Townsend, he averaged 55 in 6 matches, and without Townsend, he's averaged 44 in those last 5.
Yeah, plenty of points, plenty of rank changes in that last little game. So,
and 10,000 loops to come in too. So I got no idea if I'm doing any good or not, because half the loop ranks haven't updated yet.
Yeah, I've got 8 players today. So a lot of points to come. And then Savala loop as well. Is it 9? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 9. Sorry, I got 9 players today.
Yeah, wow. I think I've got 8.
I got 8 in my starters, then a couple more that I'm having a look at.
Yeah. So I've just basically decided not to take any of my loops. I didn't think Garrick or Haas scored well enough, or Munster for that matter.
That's pretty awesome. You can loop out Haas. I didn't have. I'm assuming you have AFB. Is that how you're doing that, or
Liam Henry for me.
oh, Liam Henry? Yeah.
I had Adam Fanua-Blake. Haas is sitting on my bench. Munster is sitting on my bench, and I'm looping Pierce Paul in, so it's worked out quite well so far.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I would have liked to loop in Jazz over Haas, but that was only going to happen if Haas was out. So
well, they played the same game anyway, so it would have been impossible.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, maybe not impossible, but close to.
Well, just if Haas didn't make the hour cut, that's the only way it would have looped in. But
so hopefully Hosking finally has a big game. He's been quite underwhelming for the couple of weeks most of us have owned him for.
Yeah, feels like he's got a boom week on the horizon, but yeah, hasn't really been setting the world alight.
Yeah, I bet he comes out and scores 42 just to have one less than us.
Yeah, but because you're looping him with Henry and stuff, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just moved Kalamatangi to mid and played Hosking instead.
Sweet. I think. Do you want to wrap it up there, Scoopy?
Yeah, I think that's pretty well. Actually, let's finish it off. Who's your tips for all 3 games? I'm probably going Warriors, Panthers, Roosters if Fogarty is indeed out like we think.
I'm gonna take the outsiders, the first 2. I'm gonna take South and Para, and I'm gonna take Chooks in the last one.
I will go South, Panthers, Raiders.
Oh, with a Hosking meaty.
Yeah. Hosking hat-trick.
Hosking hat-trick, I think.
What's that paying?
Oh, too much.
Somebody actually hit was it Sharp or Lucas hat-trick the other week and got like $500 or 500 odds.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Anyway, guys, thanks for hopping on for a little Sunday episode.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Enjoy your Sunday footy.
Talk you to Tuesday.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.